Welcome to Matlab Minutes, where we do Matlab in minutes. This is going to be episode 4. I'm going to change my title up here. If you've been following along, you will know that in the last episode, I just showed you how to make some line space type stuff, some nice number vectors. We kind of looked over here at the workspace. We looked at commenting some stuff out. A lot of little basic things, this clear and CLC command, all kinds of really nice important stuff. I'm going to save this sucker before I forget. We'll do a save as. And then once my computer gets around to it, here we go. We will save this as episode 4. I might get around to publishing these someday, maybe on like, I don't know, GitHub or whatever the kids call it these days. Okay, so this is really nice. I have something that does some nice little simple calculations, but you know, this is damn boring. This is really boring. I don't like looking at rows of numbers. It's kind of meaningless to me. You know what I'd like? I'd like to see a plot. I don't want to see numbers. I want to leave a comment here for myself so I remember what I'm doing. I don't know. I get forgetful sometimes. That happens in old age. So let's see. What am I doing here? I am finding find y for given values of x. Great. Real important comment, right? All right, so I'm just going to leave this for myself, and then what I want to do is I want to maybe plot this, and we're going to get into plotting later. We'll do like a whole episode or two on plots, but for right now, I want to do just a basic plot, just a very basic plot, so that we can see how that works in a live script. All right, so the command for making a plot, if you do not know it, is, well, plot. Oh, look at that. First letter, here's my tip. I want to create a 2D line plot. Since it's the first thing in my list, I can just hit tab. By the way, fun fact, if I wanted to go for something like print, I can use my up and down arrow keys to pick something else out of this list. I'm going to use plot, so I'm just going to hit tab. And it's got a little red squiggly under it, right, because it wants me to do something else. I need to give it values. And this is my biggest complaint with Matlab. Right here. This is it. This is the pain. This is what screws everybody up. So, plot by default will let me plot the value of, or values of any variable. In this case, a variable, maybe it's suggesting y. And what's it going to plot it against? Well, it's going to plot it against the number in which y goes in. So let's see what that means. Let's just see what that means for a second. So I'm just going to put y in there, and I'm going to run this script, and let's just see what we get if we do plot y. Well, first, you'll notice that since I suppressed this line with my dot comma, that whole row of crap went away, and now I have a plot. And wait a minute, what is going on here? I mean, okay, I should be doing x from 0 to 50. That makes sense. Yeah, actually, this looks really good. I thought this was going to look weird. Well, that's strange. No, but hold on, my y-intercept, that's not 0, though. Something is funky. This plot doesn't look right to me. Well, the reason that this plot doesn't look right is because what the plot is doing is not plotting the numbers down here, 0 to 50. It's calculating those numbers, but it's not plotting those numbers. It is actually plotting, let me open up my variable here, it is actually plotting 1 and 0, 2 and point, what is that, 4082, 3 and 0.8163. It is plotting this number up here. It's plotting this like, whatever column number I happen to be in. And it just so happens that I have 50 variables, so it sort of looks right, but we can tell just by the fact that this isn't 0, 0 that something's gone screwy. So you might go, okay, well, if I add a comma in here, it suggests linspace. Oh, I know what that command does. That gives me a line space. Well, I already used that to create x. So I might think, hold on, what just happened? I hovered over x. I might think x should be linspace, but now it says x1, y1. Yeah, well, see, this is the problem with plot. If I want to plot x versus y, I have to use x versus y, even if that little tooltip tells me otherwise. So I want to do, let's see, what did I have? I have capital X, got to get that right. It is case sensitive, versus capital Y. And now if I run this sucker, let's see what we get here. I will run this. And nice, now we're at 0, 0. This sort of makes sense. I got 10 down here on my axis. That's what I wanted, right? I wanted to go from 0 to 10 in 50 individual little chunks. So I have 50 chunks between 0 and 10 that make up my line over here. This is really nice. Okay, cool. But also kind of boring, right? Like, if I want to go up here and, maybe change y int to, I don't know, like 4, so I have like a intercept of 4. I think that's intercept. Yeah, this is where the line hits the y-axis. That's my intercept. And I hit run. Well, oh yeah, sure, look at it. Moved my axes. We're going to have to do a whole video on plotting and how to get these axes to look right. But, look at that. Like, it gave me a plot, but things are all, like, shifted around here. It's a good plot, but it sort of sucks that I have to change this every time. So I'm going to show you one last little really cool thing, and this is only available in live scripts. You do not have to use this feature, but some people are going to say, hey, this really would help me out in my day-to-day. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to come up to slope. This is going to be really fun here. This is going to be a really cool tip. I'm going to delete this number 2. Boom. Gone. That number 2 is gone. And now I'm going to come up where it says control, and I'm going to click this little drop down. And you're going to see I get things like button, checkbox, drop down, edit field, file browser. I'm going to come down to numeric slider. And I'm going to click that. And look at this. Isn't this cool? It gives me a slider. It gives me a label, which, by the way, is tied to this thing. So we're not going to touch the label. We already know what we have. We already have a variable with that name. We don't want to touch that. I can give it mins and maxes. I don't know, maybe like a minimum slope of 10. I want a maximum slope of 10. And I don't know, let's go in steps of like 0.5. And I want it to start as a default of 0. And then there's these two things down here. I'm going to talk about this execution thing in just a second. I'm going to click off of this, and now I have a slider that I can slide around. And I'm going to just pull down my command window here so we can see a little bit more about what's going on, because this is going to be really cool. So watch this. I want to change the slope of my line. I'm going to grab the slider, and I'm going to start swinging my line around. And look at this. Look at this. My line is changing. My slope is dynamically changing. And you'll notice that these run buttons up here are kind of freaking out as I change my slope. Well, that's because I have this set to update whenever I change the slider. And if I right click on my little slider up here, let me see, I gotta find the right spot. Come on, you foolish machine. There we go. Got it. All right. I had it for a second. I'll double click. That'll bring it up. There we go. Double click. Got it. I can come down here and I can see execution. Value changing. So I run on whenever the value's changing, or I can run it once it's changed. So once a person like lets go of the mouse, that'll make it easier to select this, by the way, in the future. And then I can run, and this run lets you do by section. We'll talk about sections in the future. I'm just going to leave this on current section because we only have one section. We'll talk about that sort of thing in the future. Now I can grab this, I can drag it around, I can pick what I want. Notice my plot's not updating, my run stuff isn't freaking out. And maybe I want a slope of 2, and boom, got an update. And I can do the same thing down here. I can delete this sucker out. I can come back up here. I can add a control. This time I'm just going to do a numeric spinner because, why not? I don't know, maybe like a y-intercept of, I don't know, like, let's do -5 to 5. Let's do that, -5 to 5. And I want to move in steps of 0.01. And we'll set the sucker. I don't like watching this thing like freak out, so I'm going to set this to once my value has changed. So, all right, I'm going to click off of this somewhere, and now I can kind of make a bunch of updates, and well, it's changing by 0.1. So maybe that wasn't my best choice. Now I can right-click on this sucker and come onto figure or configure control. Sorry, not figure, configure control. And that 0.01 was a little small. Maybe I'll change this to just like 0.1, and this will make it a little bit easier to see. I'll click off of it. So now as I start changing this, we can start seeing, here we go, and my line has moved. Now one thing you'll notice is that whole like run when done thing, doesn't work so well for these spinners. This is why we kind of like switching over to those little slider deals over here, to these things, because these tend to work a lot better. If I don't want this, I can just highlight it and delete key. Gone. Done. Sent. All right, I'm just going to bring this back. I'll do my -5 to 5, and I'm going to throw in steps of 0.5. Oh, well, what do we do? We did 0.1. Sorry, 0.1, and I want this to compute once my value has changed. And now this is going to be a lot easier. And I can slide the sucker around and update my plots. Look at this. I can dynamically update my plot. If I had a way of backing out the function of this line, which, I kind of already know, so that's pointless, I could do some really, really cool stuff. The other thing I want to mention is that this is kind of neat because if I do the side-by-side view here, I now have a plot that updates on the side. Pretty cool. I have a thing down here. This hides all my code. If I click this, look at, now I have sliders. Now I can literally play around with my plot in like real time. How cool is that? All right, that's been a Matlab Minute.